Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at the other fusion form available for Necrozma, Dawnwings. Dawnwings Necrozma is a Ghost and Psychic type Pokemon with the moveset of Shadow Claw, Dark Pulse, and its new legacy move, Moongeist Beam. You get the Lunar Fusion energy by defeating Dawnwings Necrozma in raids, and these raids are remotable. Thanks to some clutch invites from Yusei, I was able to get enough Lunar Fusion energy to fuse a Hundo Necrozma that I caught while at GoFest New York City. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at Dawnwings Necrozma at level 50 in the Master League. Hopping into the first match, picking up an okay lead, Kyurem versus Palkia. Kyurem is able to outpace in this matchup, making the Dragon Claw before they make it to the Spatial Rend. Opponent just decides to chip with an Aqua Tail. I'm very okay no shield in this, and then I'm going to fire back with the Dragon Claw. The Dragon Claw will be shielded. I'm going to aggressively pivot into Dawnwings. Dawnwings is at its most dangerous when it's up energy, as Dawnwings, having its nuke move of Ghost is basically the best offensive typing that you could ask for a nuke move, as very few things that are good are going to be resisting Ghost in the Master League meta. They're going to go for the Sandsear Storm. A Stone Age might have actually KO'd there, but they go for the Sandsear. This is -2. Attack has been double debuffed, and it still KOs. Dawnwings is an absolute menace. In comes Palkia. Palkia can't quite get the farm down, as I'm able to preserve the low health Dawnwings and send out Solgaleo. I just really didn't want to give up a farm down. In the back, opponent has a Dawnwings of their own. Now Dawnwings is not going to have a particularly good day after it gets hit with a Solar Beam. Solar Beam, a very high base damage move, so this thing is going to output some serious work. The Solar Beam into the Dawnwings nearly picks up the KO. I'm able to get the farm down. In comes Palkia, and the best buddy boost on Solgaleo comes in clutch. I'm barely able to hang on, knock out with the Psychic Fangs, and take the Game 1 victory. Moving to the next match, Kyurem versus Landorus. Kyurem has the advantage on paper, but the bait game with Landorus can always get tricky. Opponent switches out into Zygarde, and this is honestly great. This is by far my best matchup into Zygarde, so I'm very happy to see it here. Glaciate, pulls shields with the threat of double super effective damage, and on top of that, the guaranteed attack drops are going to slow down that Dragon Tail damage quite substantially. I'm going to be staying in this matchup, firing off another Glaciate. They've already shielded once. Are they going to be shielding twice? Yes, they are, and now I am not going to be shielding my Kyurem again, but rather, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to get an energy lead on Dawnwings. Dawnwings is an incredibly potent Pokemon offensively. That's just because Ghost is an amazing offensive typing, just purely based on the fact that in the Master League meta, there's basically nothing good that resists Ghost. Like, to resist Ghost, you end up having to run Pokemon that are very bad neutrally, stuff like Yveltal, which, against a lot of the other Metamons, really does not do great. Here they send in Duskmane. Trainer, I'm so sorry. That's a one-hit KO with the Moongeist Beam. In comes Landorus. Landorus could have potentially Sandseared there, and I think, due to the fact that I was crunch debuffed, it would have KO'd, but I make the Dark Pulse. I'm going to farm up till they make the back-to-back moves and get the catch onto the Kyurem. Let's go. We saved the Kyurem earlier, and now it pays off in a massive way. I can send in Solgaleo. They're only at 6 mud shots here, which means as long as 3 Fire Spins KO, they're not getting to another move. 3 Fire Spins do in fact get the KO, and we move to 2-0 in the set. Hopping into the next match, what do you know? Kyurem versus Zygarde once again. This time the Zygarde is on the lead, but this is very okay. Kyurem, I'm going to farm up here and fire off the Glaciate. Unfortunately, I tried to throw it instantly, but it ends up overtapping and forcing it to throw on alignment, which is not ideal. Opponent sends out Landorus, so a lot of people running very weak to ice. Oh my goodness. They go for the Sandsear. I'm going to return fire with the Glaciate, and then once I debuff them, I'm very, very comfortable sending in Dawnwings. Dawnwings, again, is just hyper-neutral play throughout the meta, thanks to this coverage. So, whereas Duskmane is incredibly powerful in ABB-style teams, where Dawnwings is really going to thrive is more of a flexible generalist in ABC-style teams, where you can have a very powerful core, in this case, Solgaleo plus Dragon, and then you have the very flexible Mon in the middle that can output a tremendous amount of damage. Here, I will go for the Dark Pulse. Unfortunately, it has been debuffed by the Sandsear Storm, meaning that it will not KO, and they are at back-to-back crunches. I'm going to shield, and if my clock's up, I'm going to catch onto the Kyurem, but it doesn't even end up being a catch because I get the one Dragon Breath snipe. In the back, they have Solgaleo, and it looks like watching it back, this is actually a very underleveled Solgaleo, but even if it was fully powered up, I just have a guaranteed win con by sending in my Solgaleo and firing off Psychic Fangs, because Psychic Fangs is going to allow me to lower their defense, and they have no way to reset that. They have Flamethrower, but even Flamethrower, unfortunately, is not going to be enough to save my opponent here because I still have a shield and I have Dawn Wings. And these Shadow Claws, especially after the defense has been debuffed, are just going to do so much damage. They're firing off their energy instantly. I'm going to be shielding up Dawn Wings as they go for the Flamethrower, and one more Shadow Claw will mean game over. 3-0 in the set, looking for the 4-0, and we pick up a pretty okay lead here. Kyurem versus Ho-Oh. Kyurem, this matchup did used to be better before Ho-Oh did get the Incinerate buff, as now, I mean, these neutral Incinerates do a lot of damage. Opponent ends up committing a shield, which is a little bit interesting. They farm to 100 energy. Ho-Oh can never hold 2 moves. Their moves are more expensive than 50 energy. I shield up the Brave Bird, they're going to send out Dialga Origin, and I'm going to respond with Solgaleo. The nice thing for me is I do have a move banked on the Kyurem, and Kyurem does win charge attack priority against Ho-Oh in case that comes up later in the match. I'm just going to spam out Psychic Fangs. I'm running Solar Beam because that's what I had on it last time and I really didn't want to use Charge TMs. There's that Roar of Time and that move never looks resisted. Dialga Origin, such a menace. Psychic Fangs is going to connect, just applying more and more damage to my opponent. I'm going to get a full farm down. Opponent sends out the Ho-Oh, and with this Psychic Fangs landing, I can now pick up the knockout with the move from Kyurem. They have a Sacred Fire, but Kyurem wins that charge attack priority tie. It's risky going for a CMP tie versus an Incinerate user, but it pays off. And now, I'm just going to save my shield for Dawn Wings. Dawn Wings is just too good neutrally, especially up a shield. It's Palkia in the back, and it's all over for my opponent. Palkia will fire off energy, whether it's a bait or a nuke, I'm shielding here. They are going to full send the Spatial Rend. I can just farm up to 100 energy and go for the Moongeist. This is going to be good night to the Palkia as Moongeist Beam picks up the KO. In comes Ho-Oh. Opponent realizes they are not getting to a charge move, and we're now one win away from a perfect 5-0 set. Bad lead in the next match as I lead Kyurem into Dragonite. I'm going to be sending out Dawn Wings. Opponent is going to go for the Iron Head. It's not a bad shield if I decide to shield here, because Dawn Wings is just neutral into basically everything. I decide to let it go this time, however, to see how it will play out. I Dark Pulse bait, it gets the shield, I can get close to the Moongeist, I can't quite get there, and the opponent makes a catch onto Togekiss, understanding that I fell just short of the Moongeist beam. So Togekiss is now going to be switch locked in here, and I can go to work with Solgaleo. Oftentimes, Togekiss is not a Pokemon that's used in the Master League too much, so to see it here kind of sets off a little bit of alarm bells in my head, because the most common Togekiss Dialga team is Kyogre as the third, and if Kyogre is the third, I need energy on this Solgaleo. So I Psychic Fangs once, I farm all the way down, and I leave with a ton of energy. In the back, it's Kyogre, and you already know what time it is. We're going for the Solar Beam. Solar Beam does not get respected. In comes Dialga. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match, and we take the 5-0 set. We move to set number 2, Kyurem versus Palkia. Opponent is actually going to try and build up to the Spatial Rend, so I'm just going to fire off the Glaciate. Glaciate is a little bit of a bait here, even though it is more expensive, just because it is going to only hit for neutral damage, but the debuff is going to force them to throw their energy. They go Spatial Rend, I go Dawn Wings, and I'm just going to one-shield farm this all the way down, because again, Dawn Wings' energy is just so incredibly powerful. I'm going to commit the shield, as they will go for the Aqua Tail. They're actually going to switch out, saving the Palkia and sending out Landorus. I'm full sending the Moongeist Beam, and the opponent is going to commit the shield. Honestly, watching this footage back, I guess I should have baited more with the Dawn Wings. I just kept going full Moongeist Beam, and people were absolutely respecting it. But I can make it to another Moongeist Beam before they make their second stance here. This is one stage debuffed, and it still KOs. The damage output is absurd. It's all going to come down to what that final Pokemon is, and it's going to be Mewtwo. Mewtwo, farm it up. Here, I should have just clicked the Dark Pulse, but I thought they were going to catch. So I shield. I'm thinking they're going to do one more and then catch, but they catch instantly as I go for the Dark Pulse. And if they have Shadow Ball, I have lost this game. I'm going to send out Solgaleo. Opponent concedes the match. Maybe they're on Ice Beam or something and they were walled. My goodness, I did not play the endgame well, but I a little bit got bailed out by their choice in Mewtwo moveset. Tough lead in the next match, Kyurem versus Snarl-Zacian, and this right here is why I think Snarl-Zacian is going to have a dramatic surge in usage. I was a big fan for quite a long time that quick attack was the way to go, but with the meta shift, with these Necrozmas coming out, you saw how much Snarl just did right there. Snarl outputs a tremendous amount of damage onto Dawnwings. Here, I get so close to a second Moongeist to threaten a shield, but I fall just short. I'm hoping my opponent miscounts, but they do not. In comes Kirim. I'm just going to fully sacrifice the Kirim here. They're going to fire off their energy. They're not running Outrage, which is nice. I'm looking for the farm down. Opponent gets the damage registration error, so they will get one final charge attack onto Kirim. It is only going to be the crunch. They're going to send out Zacian, and Zacian is now going to be debuffed by Glaciate. I do have a bit of a choice to make here. If I potentially think that I can just 2-shield Solgaleo, I let this go, but I decide to preserve Kirim. They go for the close combat, I see Dialga, and that was a mistake. I should have just saved 2 shields for Solga. 2-shielded Solga just wins this game for me, but unfortunately, I used a shield on Kirim, and Kirim is not particularly valuable in the back. I'm going to be able to land 1 Psychic Fangs. They're not going to be shielding the first. I will use my final shield, and I get the shield call right, as it is going to be the Roar of Time. I fire off another Psychic Fangs. That is, again, going to connect. Opponent still has yet to use a shield. If Dialga wants to use its energy, it's now or never. They have to use their first shield. The Psychic Fangs goes unshielded again. They're going to try and win the game with Zacian. These Snarls are adding up. I do have the best Buddy Boost equipped on my Solga, so it has a little bit of HP, or a little bit extra HP than it typically does. They build up to the back-to-back. I switch into the Kirim, and I catch. And this play, honestly, doesn't really do a whole lot for me. It's just going to come down to, do I live this close combat? I survive it, and it turns out if I had just stayed in, I could have survived the move and won the game, but the game will end in a tie. So again, bit of a misplay there, but still I feel a very nice showcase of just how strong Dawnwings is. It's going to be Kirim versus Avalugg in the next match. I stay in and go for a Glaciate. Unfortunately, I mistime it, so I do let an entire Powder Snow through. The game state was not the greatest when I was battling. I don't know if it was just operator error by me or just the game being more stuttery than usual. They go for the Rock Slide. I can survive it, save the energy. I send out Dawnwings, and Dawnwings is answered by Palkia. Palkia, not a Pokemon that my Solgaleo likes to see, so honestly, not too upset to see it here. I bait with the Dark Pulse, I get the shield from the opponent. If this is Aqua Tail, I can survive it, and I can make the Dark Pulse. They do go Aqua Tail. I barely hang on. Shout out to the Hundo Dawnwings there. And I'm going to fire off the Dark Pulse. It will not KO, however. I'm very close to a move on Kirim, so I send in the Kirim, and I'm firing off the Dragon Claw. I'm hoping that they're just going to let this through. Dragon Claw gets shielded, and that's uncomfortable because they have a lot of energy on the Palkia, and I can't easily fire spin this down. So I send out the Solgaleo. They're going to make the Aqua Tail. I try and make it to the Psychic Fangs, but there's Aqua Tail number 2. And now I'm shielding Aqua Tails, which is never a good spot to be in. They're going to switch out into Avalugg. Here's where having Iron Head would be very nice because I could just knock this out. Whereas Psychic Fangs plus Fire Spins will not KO, and they're going to be able to make it to a move. So now I really need a positive type advantage matchup in back, but considering they led with Avalugg, it's very unlikely. So this should just be a loss. In the back, it's Lugia, another situation where Iron Head would be helpful, but Solar Beam did win me a game in set 1, but unfortunately, I will lose this one. Interesting lead in the next match, Kirim versus Dawnwings. Opponent switches out and sends out Dialga. Dialga, I can answer with Solgaleo. It would be very cool if you could run both fusions on the same team. Unfortunately, since they're both technically fusions of Necrozma, you can't run 2 of the same Pokemon in Go Battle League, so it does not let you run both. However, you can run Solgaleo with Dawnwings as I am running here. So I will go for Psychic Fangs. Unfortunately, the game stutters a bit there, so I miss a couple fast moves, but I still make the Psychic Fangs. Here, I decide to undercharge, but I decide too late. Ideally, I would love to get myself lowered to prevent farm on Dawnwings. They wait so my clock's up, so I say, you know what, I am not giving this Mon farm. Dawnwings up energy is just too scary, so I pivot into my own Dawnwings. These Shadow Claws shredding each other, oh my goodness. In the back it's Palkia, and now I'm learning from previous matches. Everyone shields versus Pokemon, so you can bait decently successfully, and we get the bait. They're looking for the farm down. Dawnwings makes the Moongeist, and they have to give up the final shield here, or they are in for a bad day. They do just that. In comes Kirim. They have a lot of energy on the Palkia, and they're going to fire off their move just before I make it to the Dragon Claw. They full send the Spatial Rend. This will allow me to overfarm slightly, and this overfarm will allow me to outpace the Dawnwings and win the game. Claw will pick up the KO. In comes Dawnwings, and Dawnwings does not get to the move. Kirim making the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw knocks out the Dawnwings. It got close at the end, but we are able to get the win. Hopping into the final match, we've got a tough lead, Kirim versus Dialga. Immediate save switch to Dawnwing's opponent is going to respond with Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh, this could get interesting. I'm farming up again, I'm learning. Everyone shields versus this thing, so I can go for the Dark Pulse bait, and what do you know, they end up shielding. That is terrific. Unfortunately, the game stutters a little bit there. I think I do still eventually get the Shadow Claw through. They go for the Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire does get the debuff, and this debuff means that I think they can actually survive Moongeist now. The Moongeist will do massive damage, but just not enough, and I'm forced to double shield. That Sacred Fire debuff is a 50-50 debuff chance, so that is a little bit unfortunate. Back in comes the Dialga. I can make it to the debuff Moongeist, and this is going to do a substantial amount of damage. The Moongeist does get shielded. Dialga is going to exit with a lot of farm. I have to hope that Kirim can win the zero shield versus whatever they have in the back, because Dialga up this much energy is going to be problematic, because Roar of Time does so much damage. I'm going to fire off the Psychic Fangs and then just continue to farm up, keep chipping away at their health more and more. The Psychic Fangs is going to connect. I make it to another Psychic Fangs before they're able to make it to the move. Psychic Fangs, not going to be enough to KO, but it will get them low. They continue to farm. They bank a move in the back. It's Mewtwo. I switch to Kirim, and in this moment, I have lost the game. They're only going for Psy Strike, but Kirim does very well against Mewtwo. It wins the 1s and the 2 shield, but unfortunately you do lose the 0s because Glaciate does not do enough damage. They're able to make the move, and I know they have a move banked on Dialga, so this is just going to be game over because I am going to lose charge attack priority. Solgaleo can do many things, but it cannot win charge attack priority over Dialga. Very well played by my opponent to bank the move, understanding they would win charge attack priority. That was a great play by them, and unfortunately the game will end in a loss. Overall, both Dawnwings and Duskmane are absolutely incredible for the Master League. So while they're here this weekend, if you're watching the video on the day of release, and you're looking to add something to your Master League roster, these are terrific Pokemon to add. As to whether I'd say one is better than the other, I think they're both amazing, they just play in very different ways. Duskmane is going to be a go-to when it comes to more ABB style teams, where it's either like Psychic Steel, Double Dragon, or you could potentially use it, like I did in a previous video, as a safe switch to potentially try and bait something out. Whereas Dawnwings is definitely more of just like hyper flexible offensive play, where you don't necessarily need switch advantage, because unless opponents are selling out to try and resist ghost types and therefore locking themselves into running suboptimal Pokemon, Dawnwings is pretty much always going to be able to inflict massive, massive damage with Moongeist Beam. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.